Hello and welcome back, adventurers. This is Captain TTRPG, and today we're talking about Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Hello, adventurers, and welcome back. So we tried lying, then we gave making friends a shot. It's time to bully everybody instead with Intimidation. Intimidation is a skill that allows us to coerce others into following our commands and frighten those who stand in our way. In this case, with the skill of Intimidation, there is just one trained and one untrained action available to us at level 1, but don't worry, the feats will add plenty as we look at the skill feats that build on Intimidation, possibly even offering us new actions as we go along. So let's dive in and see how Charisma will let us get things done. Starting off with our untrained action, we have Coerce. This takes 1 minute. We talk to one creature for the entire minute. At the end of that, we make an intimidation check against their will DC. If you remember how that works, DC is just their will save plus 10. If you critically succeed, the creature will just give it and give whatever you want. The information, follow what you say, whatever that is. Now, they won't harm themselves or do anything that could harm themselves, but otherwise they'll follow through. And after they're done, they'll be unfriendly with you. Whatever order you give them can last up to a day. And of course, there's some GM interpretation here. Success is similar to critical success. The only difference is after they're done doing what you want with a crit success, they're too afraid to report you or tell anybody about it. With a success, they're probably going to go tell people right away. On a failure, they're not going to do what you want or to give you the information you want, and you lose favor with them. And on a crit fail, they also don't do what you want. They're going to straight up become hostile with you, and they're probably going to figure out the best way to cause you some trouble. Also, you cannot coerce them again for a week. All right, so coercing people is a solid start, but that's not why I love this skill so much. No, I love this because of the trained action, Demoralize. Demoralize takes one action. You verbally shout, taunt, or otherwise attempt to shake an enemy. This must be a verbal accosting with words understood by the target, or else if they don't understand your language, you're going to take a -4 to the check you're going to make against them. You make an intimidation check against the creature's will DC, like we did with Coerce. Keep in mind that this is a mental trait, so afflicting mindless creatures, well, that's just not going to happen. On a crit success, the creature becomes frightened 2, and that is brutal. If you're looking for the frightened condition, go check out my video about conditions. I cover it there. It's one of the best and one of the most common. On a success, it's still a frightened 1, still great for a single action. Nothing happens on a fail or crit fail, just it is what it is. No matter the result, you cannot demoralize the same creature again until at least 10 minutes have passed. The frightened condition is powerful. Not only does it debuff all of their defensive stats, it also debuffs their offensive stats. And yes, it does go away on its own over rounds, but you're helping out your whole team by demoralizing an enemy, not just yourself. No matter what that enemy is doing, they are affected by the frightened condition. So both of those actions here have a strong base for us to really build off of and make them even better as we level up. So let's look at the skill feats we can take and just see what kind of advantages they can provide us. Starting at level 1. So we have Group Coercion. Level 1 takes trained in Intimidation. You can attempt to coerce 5 targets at once, still having communication with them, right? Still takes a minute. At Expert, you can increase this to 10 at once. At Master, 25, and at Legendary, 50 at once. Now keep in mind, each of these creatures can have its own outcome. That's not just going to be one outcome for the group, but that is a lot of people to do what you want or to give you information you want. I like the idea that you can coerce an entire audience at a rally or something to do your bidding. Intimidating Glare. Level 1, trained in Intimidation again. You can demoralize with just a look. I'm not intimidating. Is this working for you? Probably not. You no longer take a penalty for not sharing a language, which is really critical here, because there's going to be a lot of creatures who don't share a language with you. Even if they're humanoids, they may not understand what you say. This can come up all the time. Quick Coercion. Level 1, trained in Intimidation. Now you can coerce a target after just 1 round, or 6 seconds, rather than a minute. Just get to it. Why wait? You're scary. I think things like this are often overlooked. I'm not saying that you're going to want to coerce somebody in combat. That doesn't make sense. But it may not be the situation where you can take an entire minute to try to convince somebody. It might just be, hey, you've got that guard. You need to suddenly coerce that guard into running in and telling the king something for you. You don't want to spend a minute to do that. You just need to get it done. Reveal true name. This is a rare skill feat, so may not be allowed. It still takes level 1. Trained in Intimidation, and you have to be trained in at least one of the magic skills, Arcana, Nature, Occultism, what have you. Essentially, this is just a 2-action version of Coerce. So if you know the creature's true name, you can use 2 actions to get them to do what Coerce normally does, with the same or very similar results for all of the different levels of success. Vicious Critique. This is an uncommon, so not quite as bad as rare, but still might not be allowed. Level 1 skill feat. It takes Trained in Intimidation and Trained in Crafting and is a free action. You follow up a coercion check against somebody who is maybe making you something or selling you something with a crafting check. If it goes well, you improve your intimidation check result. So let's say that you got a success on your intimidation check to coerce them, and then you roll a critical check on the crafting here. That's a free action. Now you have a crit on your intimidation because you just know so much. You've intimidated them even further into doing what you want. All right, let's move it up to level 2 with Intimidating Prowess. This is level 2, takes Expert in Intimidation, and you have to have a strength modifier of at least +3. Your muscles do the talking for you. Now, you get a +1 to your Coercion and Demoralize checks, and you get a +2 to those checks if you have a strength modifier of +5 or greater and at least Master in Intimidation. So as you level up, you can actually make it really easy to crit with your intimidation checks if you keep putting points into that. I like this because it encourages those beefy fighter barbarian types to lean into what they think of as maybe not the most useful thing, as a charisma-based skill. They might not love intimidation, but it's so fitting for those classes, and I think this is a great way to get that across. Lasting Coercion. Level 2, Expert in Intimidation. Your successful coercion can last a week rather than a day, or a whole month if you have Legendary. Being able to tell somebody to do something for you for an entire month is kind of crazy. Terrifying Resistance. Level 2, Expert in Intimidation. You gain a +1 to saving throws against spells cast by targets you have successfully demoralized. So yes, this is very specific. You have to use it against casters for this to make sense, but having that +1 to saves, because every +1 in this game matters, is not a bad thing. It's just kind of a niche because it only matters against spellcasters. We're jumping all the way up to level 7 now with Battle Cry. So this takes Master in Intimidation and level 7. As a free action, when you roll initiative, you can choose one creature and attempt to demoralize it right away. This is just strong all on its own. Being able to, out the gate, frighten somebody, especially if you land the crit and get a Frighten 2 on them, could determine how round 1 really goes for you and your allies. Once you're Legendary in Intimidation, you can use a reaction after you critically hit a creature to try to demoralize it. So critical hits do a lot of damage. They're not usually going to one-shot kill creatures unless they're pretty low minions, but being able to crit and then instantly demoralize a creature, well, that can be really strong instead of your allies to just finish them off. Skeptic's Defense. This is uncommon, so check with your GM. Level 7 takes Master Intimidation. If you are targeted by or in the area of a mental effect, you can choose to disbelieve it and try a counteract check. If you succeed on that counteract check against this, just you and other people can still be affected by it. You will be unaffected by it. And also, the creature that caused the effect becomes Stupefied 1 as you are so clear with your disbelief in their effect that it is scary to them, which is very, very fun. Terrified Retreat. Level 7 takes Master in Intimidation. If you critically succeed at demoralizing a creature and it is lower level than you, it becomes Fleeing for a round. That's cool. Just run, little man, run. They will want to get away from you because you're just that scary. Keep in mind, it only happens on a critical success, but against minions, that can happen quite a lot. And if there's a whole swarm of them, it might be better to get rid of one for a single action while you deal with the others. Too Angry to Die. This is an interesting one. We don't see this much. This is actually a level 12 requirement. It takes Master still and uses a reaction. After you defiantly stand up, post being knocked unconscious, you can use your reaction to demoralize a creature. So this is, my ally healed me, I'm back up, I stand up, and boom, I use my reaction to say, never do that again. You're next on the list. Cause them some fear and then go take them down. And finally, one of my favorite level 15 legendary skill feats, Scare to Death. This is one action. This is not simply an improvement to Demoralize, this is its own action. Like Demoralize, it has a -4 if you don't share language with the creature, and those things that buff Demoralize won't actually affect this, so keep that in mind. When you critically succeed on your check, the creature gets a Fortitude saving throw against your Intimidation DC. If they critically fail, they die. So yeah, that doesn't come up all the time. You're not going to do this to a boss, but they die. If there's any other result on the Fortitude save, and you critically succeeded, again, because that's the only way they do the fort save, they're still going to be frightened 2 and fleeing 1 for a round. So even at baseline, the crit is better than Demoralize's crit, right? Because you're adding fleeing on there. If your intimidation check is a success, the creature is still frightened 2. Frightened 1 even on a failure, and just nothing on a crit failure. So it's still stronger than a base Demoralize as long as you share a language with the creature. Scare to Death is very cool, and the idea that you can literally scare somebody and they die feels fantastic. As you can see, this skill has serious combat capability as well as social situation uses. The classes that easily take advantage are, like the last few skills we talked about, charisma-based classes, so bards, oracle, psychics, scoundrel rogues, sorcerers, summoners, thaumaturgists, and then you've got classes that have specific uses for Demoralize, which are the braggart swashbuckler and the pistolero gunslinger. They both have interacting actions that work with demoralizing. Having said that, Demoralize is so good for any character to use. It is one action, you can weave it in, it's a great setup before you go attack them. It can be great to end a turn that way if you have nothing else to do with your one action. Good for melee characters, good for spellcasters. This is just a solid skill to have. I highly recommend it on any build that feels like they can add an extra skill that they want to raise up over time. For GMs, keep in mind that your players are going to be, using this into interaction with NPCs, so give them some leeway, make sure that they're having to work for it, but you want them to see, levels of success depending on what they're using and being creative with what they're saying when they're trying to coerce people and what they're trying to get out of them. So just like our last two with deception and diplomacy, just let your players really play with this. Encourage them to entertain new possibilities with coercion. Also, don't worry about being strict on the whole friendly, unfriendly. That whole system can be complicated if you don't want to deal with it. Don't worry too much about it. Those attitudes can easily be handled in a less strict manner by you over time. Personally, I'm going to go work on my glare. As you saw, it's not intimidating. And I'm going to go prepare a few taunts. But as always, adventure on.